Well, hi everybody in the UCAP family. I hope you guys are doing well. My name is Sathiya Sam, and I was beyond excited to be with you guys for my very first time at the March conference, which unfortunately was canceled, obviously due to the coronavirus outbreak, which we are now all working on mitigating together, collectively. Not even just in North America, but really around the globe. And it's a very unusual time. And the coordinators of the conference had reached out and asked if I'd be willing to share something with you guys, and I couldn't pass up on the opportunity. I was honestly so excited to be with you guys that I had a whole talk prepared, and I'll hopefully hold on to that for when the conference is rescheduled. But in the meantime, I just want to share a couple things that I've been doing during this outbreak to stay clean and to stay free. And maybe I'll start with a little bit of background on my story just so you know where I'm coming from. But I struggled with pornography for 15 years. And it started when I was 11 years old, which they're saying right now is about the average age of first exposure. And it lasted until I was 26. And in those 15 years, I completed high school at a Christian high school. I completed my Bachelor's of Science in Biology at a university called Brock University. And I worked as a pastor, I worked as a recording artist, and I went around speaking and preaching and doing all kinds of stuff like that, all while having a problem with pornography. And I tried lots of different things to get free. Most of them were not very helpful. And it wasn't until I was in my mid 20s, that's when I really started to find things that actually worked, probably when I was about 23 years old, 24 years old. And that began a 3 to 4 year journey of me finding true freedom, actual freedom in life, where I was no longer bound by my temptations or my urges. I was no longer giving in. I would have hard and stressful days, and I would find healthier options to deal with the stress. And that's when my life really started to turn around. And so I decided in those seasons, even before I had gotten free, I decided one day I will get free and I will teach everything that I learn on my journey to help other people get free in a much shorter time span than I did. Because if you ask me, 15 years is way too long. So that's my background. That was about 4 years ago. I was 26, I believe, when that all happened, or maybe I was 25, somewhere around there. But I know it's been 4 years now that I've been free, and I have started a company to help get this message out and to help other guys get free. So that's a little bit of background about me and what I do. Now, even though I'm free for 4 years, I still have to guard against it. I have to be wise, and I have to make sure that I am implementing things in my life that are going to keep me safe, and not just to avoid pornography, but to actually make decisions that are healthy and good for me. And so that's something I've had to think harder about lately. Generally, I'm in a pretty good rhythm and routine. I don't even really feel tempted to do that kind of stuff anymore. But I have had to safeguard against myself the last few weeks to make sure that I can stay in a place of health. So I just want to share a couple things that I've been doing that have been really helpful for me. The major thing that I've done is just been very intentional with my time. Now, this is something that I do on a regular basis already. I think time management is really important, but more than that, it's about actually having priorities in your life and making sure that they get your best efforts and your best attention. And I've had to do that more so just being crammed in my place with my wife. I love my wife dearly, but we are used to having our space around here. And I'm usually out and about working during the day, so she's got the place to herself. And now I'm here all the time in her space, and usually I come home after work, and it's nice to be back in my place. It's nice to settle in. It's nice to kind of see her again and all of that. And we don't have those dynamics. We are spending almost every waking hour and minute together. So being intentional with our time has been really good, making sure that we get time apart from each other, making sure that we get time to ourselves to do things that fill us back up and help us feel refreshed and rejuvenated. Those things have gone a long way, and just making sure that when we look at a week, we don't really have a lot of dead space. We're actually doing everything we can to be intentional, and even the times where we're just free. They're free times. We're not working. We're not spending time with friends. We're not getting on a Zoom call. That's what I mean by hanging out with friends, because that's how that works these days. But even when we don't have specific tasks to do, we are setting aside, like, this is Sathiya time, and this is where he's gonna go for a walk or play the piano, or those are the kinds of things that I do, to help myself keep fresh and just to stay kind of rejuvenated. So doing those kinds of things, being really intentional, is super important. And the way I kind of summarize all of this is just by saying, if you don't control your time will control you. And in the men that I work with, the number one trigger that they all will tell me is boredom. And boredom is an external trigger. There's external triggers and internal triggers. Internal triggers would be something like a feeling of rejection, a feeling of neglect, feeling unloved or unaccepted, or feeling stressed, that sort of thing. But then external triggers are when you see something that sort of causes your brain to go there, or yeah, you're in an environment that kind of leads you down that path. Most guys say that boredom is the number one thing that leads them to watching porn. And it might not be watching porn even necessarily. It could just be that boredom leads to a poor decision. And either way, we want to avoid that as much as we possibly can. And I think regardless of the circumstances, none of it is really an excuse. We can all find good things to do with our time, and we can definitely guard against boredom. Even though it's a little bit harder, it just requires a bit more intentionality. I would say the second thing is to make sure that you look after yourself. I think self-care is very, very important. And that extends into several facets of life: the physical, the mental, the emotional, the social, and the spiritual. And my wife and I have really been very, very intentional about hitting health points in each of these areas. So physically, I still get up in the mornings and I exercise. There's lots of great YouTube workouts that I'm able to do in the comforts of my home, and that actually works out really, really well for me. So it's not ideal. Obviously, I'd like to be outside running or going to the gym, but it's still something, and I know it's still good for my emotional and my mental health especially, but obviously it's good for my physical health too. There's some obvious indicators there. Mentally, one of my biggest outlets is playing the piano, and I think having an outlet like that is really imperative in a time like this, because inevitably being just under there's stress all around the globe. We're all under a level of stress because of what's going on. But in general, to mitigate the stresses of life, we need outlets. We need things that are completely separate from work. They're completely separate from family. They're just things that we can do that allow us to release, that allow us to process, and that ultimately allow us to emote. And I think that's a huge part of it. And that's why playing the piano is so good for my mental and my emotional health. Actually, it really, it helps me to release, and they both benefit. Both my mental and emotional health benefit as a result. So I think having those outlets is huge. I also believe socially and relationally, this is a prime opportunity to invest in some relationships that have maybe slipped through the cracks. Maybe there's been some people that you've wanted to sort of invest in a little bit more, spend a bit more time with, do that sort of thing. And I think this is a really, really prime opportunity to do that. And, for us, my grandpa is a great example. He just celebrated his 89th birthday a weekend ago. And so we all would normally get together. We all live within about a couple hours of each other. So we would meet up at his place and we would have cake. And my aunt usually does quite a bit of cooking for us. And we have a nice big meal together. And so we obviously weren't able to do any of that. So we all got on Zoom. And we just shared some stories. We sang happy birthday to my grandpa. And we had a lot of fun together. And it certainly does not replace physical human connection, but it's better than nothing. And it's easy to have all or nothing thinking in times like these, to think, well, if I can't meet people in person, then if I can't meet with people in person, then what's the point? But actually, there's still lots of ways to do it. And, I would say it didn't feel the same, but it certainly felt better than just bypassing his birthday altogether and not getting a chance to be together as a family. So there's lots of solutions that you can do in that way that really help a lot. And we've been a little more intentional about playing games online with our friends as well. So there's Jackbox TV, you might have heard of it, or Phase 10 is one of my favorite card games. So there's an online version you can link up with your friends, and just finding different little strategies like that goes a long way. For obviously socially, it's a good thing. It's nice to connect, but it's really good for your emotional and your mental health as well. And my faith is a huge part of my life. It's been a huge part of my recovery and certainly my success in staying free from pornography. And I have chosen to invest more in my faith life in this season because I think I need it. And I know that it will serve me well. It'll help me make good decisions. It keeps my mind clear. And it really just allows me to keep my priorities in perspective, because I think in times like these, when there's extra stress, there's added burdens, there's added need, it's very easy for your priorities to shift focus. And sometimes that can be at the expense of yourself, at the expense of your relationship with loved ones, and it can be at the expense of your spirituality if you're not careful. And I'm working super hard. I get up early in the morning and kind of go through some of my disciplines every day. And that helps me stay grounded, that helps me stay healthy, and keep a fresh mind. So these are some of the things that I'm doing. So number one is just be really intentional with your time. Number two is find good outlets that are going to hit on those different areas of life: physically, emotionally, mentally, socially, and spiritually. And the last thing is, I would say, keep an opportunistic mindset. Keep an opportunistic mindset. In other words, just remember that in the Great Depression back in the early 1900s, they said that more millionaires came out of that decade than any other time period in life. And that was, I think, specifically in America. The stats maybe are different elsewhere. You look at an event like September 11th that happened in 2001, and how that completely changed the landscape of security and of travel, and really just even in trust at an international level between nations. These kinds of moments in life have a way of shaping the course of world history and changing life as we knew it. And I think that this pandemic will be the same. And we all have a choice to either sulk in it, to complain about it, to get caught up in the fear and in all the concern about it, or we have a choice to make the most of it, to acknowledge this as an opportunity, and that we can jump on the bandwagon here and really get on board with some positive change, whether it's personally in your own life. This is going to be the start of some great businesses, some great services, some great new initiatives that are going to serve us better as a human race in the future. I can pretty much guarantee that. We don't know what they are yet, but we know that they will come out. And I think keeping that sort of mindset allows you to capitalize on those opportunities for yourself. And it also gives you a chance to really celebrate what is going on in this season. I don't think I've ever seen the entire world forced to change their lifestyle so dramatically, all for each other. And the one thing we can for sure take away from this time is that how we live our own life does actually influence the lives of literally everybody around the world. This all started with, I believe, one person, maybe two people, and yet here we are, the entire globe has been impacted, and now we all get to collectively work together to mitigate this and to get life back on track again. And I think that's a wild opportunity, and I just want to use that to draw all of this home, because it is an opportunity. And I think for those of you who maybe have struggled with pornography, or for those of you on the other side who are helping people get free of pornography or advocating for the dangers of pornography, just remember that this is an opportune season and that we have a real chance to be a light. We have a real chance to be a voice of hope, a voice of reason that can encourage people and direct people. And for you, that's more, I guess, on the side if you're helping people get free, if you're an advocate or you're a voice. But if you're on the other side and you're struggling with pornography, this is actually a great opportunity for you to do something about that, because your life does in fact influence the decisions of other people, and how you live it matters. And I want you to know that, and I want you to know that you can make some great positive decisions in this season that will actually change your life forever. It will literally change the entire trajectory of your life. And I would strongly, strongly, strongly encourage you to take that opportunity now in this season to do it. It's a crazy, it's a wacky and wild time to be alive. But honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I think this is a great chance rather for us to learn, for us to grow, and for us to become more educated and more informed on the issues of this world and how we can make the world a better place. So I wish you guys all the best. I'm cheering you on. I can't wait to be with you in person at the next UCAP event. And until then, stay safe. Do everything you can with wisdom, with caution, and with everybody else's best interest in mind. And don't forget to take care of yourself in the process. Sending lots of love. Take care. Bye-bye.